Hello and welcome to this IELTS general writing preparation video. Today I'm going to take you through task 1 and we'll be focusing on writing an informal letter. Now, out of the 3 letters that you may have to write for task 1, I find that students generally prefer the informal letter because it is informal. So perhaps some of these words and phrases and grammar may come more naturally to you. However, in this video, I'm going to show you a strategy that you should follow, a foolproof outline which will help you organize your thoughts. I'll give you some vocabulary, some great phrases for informal letters, and then we'll go through a step-by-step example. So let's get started. First off, I just want to go through a little bit of the information when it comes to writing task 1. Now, you're going to have 60 minutes for the entire writing section, so it's best that you spend 20 minutes on writing task 1. This will allow you to have 40 minutes for writing task 2, which is more involved and has a higher word count. Speaking of word count, for writing task 1, you should be writing at least 150 words. This is your minimum. However, you could stay from 150 to 200, usually around the 200 mark. It seems like you might be writing a little bit too much. So stick to at least 150, but going over just a bit, adding about 50 words wouldn't be so much of a problem. Just make sure you're devoting enough time to writing task 2 and not spending too much time on this. Like I said earlier, you're going to have to write letters in writing task 1. You're going to have 3 tasks, and one of these will be chosen for you on test day. So you're either going to write in a personal or informal, semi-formal, or formal style. Today we're going to be talking all about the informal letter, which will have more of a personal style. And in your letters, you're going to have a mix of things to do, to write about. And you may have to give or ask for information. You might have to state your opinions. You might have to complain about something, about a service, or you may have to express likes and dislikes. Today, we're going to be talking about a personal correspondence. So most likely we're going to be giving, perhaps asking for some information. Now, when it comes to scoring, there are 4 things that you'll have to keep in mind. They're all weighted the same, so pay attention to all of them. The first one is task achievement. This basically asks, did you complete the letter as you were requested to do so? We will talk about this when we see our outline, but basically, have you given information? What is the key feature of your letter? This is important. Secondly, you're going to have to show that you can write a letter that has a strong coherence and cohesion. This has to do with the organization of your letter, so your paragraphs, your linking, your transition words, and making sure that everything flows in a nice way. Then in terms of what you write, your lexical resource will be important. These are the vocabulary words you choose, and making sure that you have correct spelling and you have minor errors, if any. This is looking at your collocations as well and just how confident you are using the words that you've chosen. And then, of course, we have grammatical range and accuracy. This involves your sentence structures, the tenses that you use, punctuation. I find that even though the informal letter is quite popular, it is pretty difficult to include advanced grammatical structures in a personal, informal letter. And so you'll have to think of ways to do that and make sure you're getting enough grammar and the right vocabulary in your letters. So practice truly does make perfect with this, so make sure you are brushing up on your grammar and your vocabulary beforehand. But just know that with the informal letter, you might want to pay extra attention to your grammatical range and make sure you're not just sticking to basic tenses. Okay, now here's a guide that we're going to follow today. It's going to be our step-by-step guide. And first off, you're going to have to read and understand your writing prompt. This comes in some 3 sub-steps, I like to call them, and here they are. So you're going to have to read for background information in your prompt, read and understand the instruction words, which of course are in your prompt, and also understand any accompanying detail, which of course will be in your prompt. So in just a minute, we're going to look through the prompt that we'll be using today for our step-by-step example. But this is really the first step, because this first step will let you know exactly which of the 3 letters you have to write. There won't be anything that says you must write an informal letter. You have to understand the context, you have to understand the instructions in order to figure out which type of letter would be best for the given recipient of your letter. I'll take you through this in just a bit, but remember, this is the first thing you want to do, and you want to understand these 3 points. After you've done that, you want to plan your outline, and I cannot stress enough how important outlines are for any type of writing in the IELTS exam. You might think that a letter is pretty basic and so you don't need an outline, but I'm here to tell you that that is definitely not the case. You want to make sure you're getting maximum points for your coherence and cohesion. So an outline is very important. It's just about 1 minute extra, honestly. The more you practice, the quicker you'll become, and it makes a world of difference. Then after that, you want to set your tone, because again, you've got 3 different tones with these 3 letter types. Today, we're going to take a look at how to have an informal, personal tone. And then, of course, after this, now you are ready to start writing. But keep in mind, you cannot start writing your letter until you've done all 3 of these steps and really paid enough attention to your preparation. Okay, let's take a look at our prompt, and we're going to go through this first step, read and understand. Okay, so we have your prompt here. Imagine that you are reading this for the first time. You do not know whether or not we're looking at an informal, formal, or a semi-formal letter. We'll see if you can guess from the language. So I'm going to read it once with you, and then the second time I'm going to read it again and separate the various points. So it says, last weekend, your cousin celebrated her 50th birthday, but you could not attend and forgot to cancel. Write a letter to your cousin. In your letter, apologize for missing the birthday celebration, explain why you missed it and why you had not let her know, describe how you will make it up to her. Write at least 150 words. You do not need to write any addresses. Begin your letter as follows, dear and blank. Now, very obviously, the fact that it says your cousin and the fact that you see dear gives you 2 clues that this is going to be an informal letter, because you know your cousin, it is part of your family, you probably have a lot of memories with your cousin, and so you know this person. There is no reason for you to write a semi-formal or a formal letter to your cousin. So in this case, you can rest assured that it's going to be an informal letter. Now, to separate it into these 3 parts, for background information, this is the first sentence. So this sentence tells you everything you need to know about the situation, the background information. And again, we have last weekend, your cousin celebrated her 50th birthday, but you could not attend and you forgot to cancel. So you seem to be a little bit at fault here. You may have to make an excuse, and you did not go to this birthday party. So that is all the background information you need. Now, the instruction statement is right here. Write a letter to your cousin. This just verifies the fact that it's going to be an informal letter. And then your accompanying details are these 3 points right here. You have to apologize for missing the birthday celebration. You have to explain why you missed it and why you had not let her know. This is in 2 parts. And also the last point, describe how you will make it up to her. So you're going to have to think about your apology language, explanation language, and how you can best describe how you will make it up to her. These 3 points are going to be your 3 paragraphs in the letter, which we'll talk about next in your outline. But this is basically the 3-part prompt that you'll have to understand: background information, instructions, and accompanying details. Of course, you already know how to open the letter. You are going to use dear. And in this case, you can really just think of any name, be creative, think of a name, but make sure you're using the first name and not a Miss or Mr. Keep in mind here that you have to use it to her. So it has to be a female cousin. So you're going to use those pronouns. Make sure that you don't forget something like this, because the prompt is already making that decision for you. Your fictional cousin is going to be a woman. So she's just turned 50, and make sure that you are able to include that in your letter. Okay, so this is step one. Now we're going to go and look at how we are going to formulate the outline, and we're also going to take a look at the tone of voice that we should be using for an informal essay. Once we've done that, I'll see you back here to start outlining everything. Okay, so we're back to our outline. Now I have listed all of the various points. You might think that this is long, but really it isn't, because the greeting and the farewell will not take a lot of space, will not even take a lot of thinking. So without further ado, let's get started and look at how we will outline our informal letter. First off, first thing first, we have our greeting, which was given to us in the prompt. Then we have an opening, and this is the major difference between the informal letter and the other letter outlines. In your opening, it's going to be heartfelt. So this means you can add some emotion. You can perhaps ask how the person is doing. In our case, we're going to perhaps apologize or perhaps even say happy belated birthday. This is going to be something that allows you to connect with the recipient. You are not going to use this in a formal or a semi-formal type of letter because you don't know the person on this level. So this informal letter is for someone that we know. It could be a family member in this case, or a friend. And so a heartfelt opening is absolutely fine and a great touch for this informal letter outline. And then along with that, we're going to add in the reason for writing. And in this case, we're going to write about missing a birthday party. Now, after that opening, we're going to use the three accompanying details we see in our prompt to discuss paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. In these paragraphs, we have to make sure that we are touching on all of the points. So we're either going to apologize, explain, describe, do exactly what is said in those accompanying details. And then we're going to use a closing sentence just like you would in a normal letter that you would write in your real life or on your own time, just something to wrap everything up. And then, similar to the greeting, you're going to say a farewell and sign your name. Again, this might seem like a lot, but it's really important to include all of this, especially for the task achievement score. And this really helps with your cohesion and coherence because everything is organized, everything flows quite well. Also keep in mind, you have 150 words, so these 3 paragraphs should really just be about 2 to 3 sentences, although you will see that the bulk of your writing is going to be in these paragraphs. So I would suggest 2 to 3 well-written sentences that make sense. That will usually fulfill all of your accompanying details and all of the things that you have to complete for this letter. So go ahead and keep that in mind. Now, before we actually get to writing this outline, I just want to call your attention to some tone. And like I said, we're going to be using the informal tone today. So I have this helpful chart of things to keep in mind in any phrases. We have lexical points, the voice, example phrases, common greetings, and common farewells for this specific type of letter. It's great if you are able to memorize or just think of some things to keep in the back of your mind. You can separate them for the level of formality. So keep this in mind for informal writing. When it comes to your lexical points, this is the only time that contractions are okay in the exam. You can use them in an informal letter because you would do that in real life for an informal letter. Just remember, you're not going to be tested on contractions. So this is really the only time that you could use it. Also, you can use colloquialisms, any idioms. These are all acceptable. So an example phrase could be, "Hi there, how are you doing?" Okay, this is quite informal. It's not what you would use with a professor or someone you don't know at a company that you work for, or perhaps someone you don't know at an insurance company and you're writing a claim. You definitely would not use this. This is quite informal. Hi there, very informal. So this is actually the perfect letter for something like this. Now, when it comes to the voice between active and passive, the active voice is most commonly used with this tone because it doesn't require writers to sound more professional. So go ahead and use your active voice, what you usually speak with, what you usually use in an informal situation. There really isn't any need to change that. As an example phrase, you could say something like, I've been thinking about you for a while and just wanted to touch base and say hello. So you see touch base is actually quite informal as a phrase. A nice verb phrase here. We've got the present perfect continuous. So just think about adding in grammatical range because it isn't so easy. It doesn't come as obvious with an informal letter. So whenever you can, add it in. If you find that it's very difficult to add things like past perfect or present perfect continuous in something like this, I would encourage you to really amp up your verb phrases, phrasal verbs, and vocabulary just to help you with that lexical resource. Common greetings here, there's really just one. It will be dear in the line, and usually you're going to see this in the prompt anyway, so you'll have to start it the way that they tell you to. However, you have more freedom with your farewells. So you could say something like, your friend, love, hope to speak to you soon, hope to see you soon, keep in touch, all the best. Okay, so these are great phrases. Remember these, memorize them, and use them when you are writing. So if you have these up your sleeve, it just takes one more thing out of your mind on an already stressful test day. So keep this in mind. Remember to brush up on everything so that you are prepared for the exam. Okay, so here we are again with our writing prompt, and I have our outline that we have just looked at right below it. So we have everything from our 3 paragraphs to our opening and our closing. So I just want to let you know that your outline does not have to be perfect. In fact, when you see me writing, I'm not going to be writing in full sentences. I just want to use this for my own information to develop my own thoughts on the essay. No one is going to see your outline aside from you, so write things that make sense for you. Now, of course, I have a greeting here. I already know what I'm going to use for the greeting, but I'll just write dear with a comma so that I know that. I could even start thinking of a fictional name to use. Now, for the heartfelt opening plus the reason for writing, I want to say something that will seem natural, something that I would write to my cousin about her 50th birthday. I already know that my reason for writing is going to be apologizing and explaining about the birthday party and the fact that I couldn't make it. So I'm just going to say something simple and light, like, I hope your party, was a success, or I hope it was fun. I'll just leave this here for now. And then I'm going to say happy belated birthday. Belated because I haven't seen her and I did not go to the party, so it is belated since it's afterwards. Now for my paragraphs, I remember the first thing I have to do is apologize. So I'm going to get that out of the way, and I know I'm going to have to say something like, I'm so sorry. Perhaps I could talk about the length of time it's been since I've seen her. So I could say, it's been a long time. Then for paragraph 2, I know that I have to explain why I missed the party. So I'm just going to say that I was busy with work. This is something simple. It's the first thing that popped up into my mind. So I'll say something, I was busy with work. I'll say I was out of town, perhaps on a last-minute trip. And with paragraph 3, I have to describe how I'm going to make it up to her. I'm going to perhaps ask her if she wants to go out for a dinner. So I'll say something like, I'll take her out to dinner to make it up to her, okay? And that is going to explain just the basis of what I have to write in my letter. Now for the closing sentence, I'll just say something like, I hope we can go out, or I hope we can meet. And then as a farewell, I'm going to do something simple like, hope to speak to you soon, and then I will write my name. So I did take this a bit slower just because I was trying to explain it with you, but this is what you would hope to do on the test and in your practice. So you use this to just get your ideas churning in your mind, and also this already takes out any of the guesswork. So as I'm writing my essay, I'm just going to reflect back on this and use this as a guide, but I should not be writing anything more, anything new than what I see here. Of course, I'm going to elaborate with detail, especially in these 3 paragraphs, because I want to have about 2 to 3 sentences. So I am going to elaborate, but this is really just the overall guide of my letter. And this will make writing easier. It will also keep me on track to stay along the 150 word mark. I'm going to get to 150, but I'm not going to go too far over. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to start writing on the right-hand side. Okay, so first thing first, I'm going to say, Dear Marnie. Okay, I just thought of a name. Marnie was the one that came to mind. I want to say happy birthday. So first thing I'll say is happy belated birthday. I hope you're doing well and that you had a great 50th birthday party. Perfect. Okay, so that is my opening line. I have talked about her party. I've said happy belated birthday. I have used a contraction, so that is informal. And 50th is the correct way to write the ordinal number. Of course, you could also have this as a smaller text up above. And when you are writing it with a pencil and paper, you should make sure to make the TH a bit smaller. This is just how my computer is writing it. Now I'm going to go on to my paragraph 1. I'm going to apologize for missing the birthday celebration. And so I look at my outline and I see, I'm so sorry. So I'm going to write, I'm so sorry that I wasn't at your party to celebrate with you. It's been such a long time since we've been able to catch up and see each other, okay? Now just note that spelling is important, and also just note that I'm going to include as many grammar ranges and vocabulary words that I can. We'll talk about this at the end of my letter and after I follow the outline. So I'll continue on to my second paragraph because I've done the apology, so I've apologized. Now I'm going to explain why I missed it, and I'm going to really try to get her to believe me. So I'm going to say, to be completely honest, I've been swamped with work lately, and I was asked to go on a last-minute business trip a few days before your birthday. Okay. Now I have to tell her why I hadn't let her know. And so I'll say, I was so busy that I had completely forgotten about your party, and it didn't occur to me to call you and cancel. All right, so I have fulfilled the 2 points here. I explained why I missed the party and why I didn't let her know. So if I would have perhaps just included the first sentence and not the second, I would not have received full points because I have to make sure I am explaining everything in this detail. Now it's time for my third paragraph, and in my third paragraph I have to describe how I'm going to make it up to her. So I said I was going to take her out to dinner. So let's say my busy schedule is absolutely not an excuse for missing your 50th birthday, though, and I would love to make it up to you. All right, and I'll say that I've already reserved a table for 2 next Friday night at the new sushi restaurant in town. Okay, so I've talked about how I'm going to make it up to her, and I'll just add in an extra line and say, can I please treat you to a luxurious birthday dinner? Okay, and now again, I'm going to use a closing sentence. So I'm going to say, I hope we can, let's say celebrate instead of go out. I hope we can celebrate together next Friday. And I said for my farewell, I'll say something like speak to you soon. I won't say hope again because I've used it quite a bit. And I'll say speak to you soon. And I'll just make up a name and I'll say Jessica. Okay. Obviously, I'm not going to use the surname. I'm just going to use the first name. So just looking at this again, I've done everything. I have my greeting. I have the heartfelt opening and the reason for writing. I have the first paragraph, I have the second paragraph, the third paragraph, the closing sentence, and the farewell and the name. Let's see how many words we have. 163 words. So word count 163, that's perfect. I have done everything I needed to do. Now I'm going to talk about the vocabulary and grammar with you. I'm going to change the colors a bit so that you can see why this letter is a success. Okay, and here we have a color-coded example. So I have any appropriate vocabulary that refers to birthdays in blue. I also have other vocabulary in blue, like phrasal verbs, and just really nice advanced vocabulary. So let's look at that first. First, we see happy belated birthday. Belated is actually an important word to add here. If you were just to say happy birthday, it wouldn't really convey the fact that you were late and that you did not celebrate with your cousin. So belated is a great word here. Catch up is a great phrasal verb. Instead of just saying able to speak and see each other, catch up conveys the fact that you know your phrasal verbs. Swamped is a great alternative for busy. So I've been swamped with work. Last minute is also a great adjective to use. And it didn't occur to me is also a great vocabulary phrase. Instead of just saying, I didn't realize, this is a little bit more advanced and just shows a different level. Another phrasal verb is make it up to you, and luxurious is a nice adjective that you could use. Now, these are the blue vocabulary words. When it comes to the green, I've got my grammatical phrases, and so I have a lot of present perfect here. Like I said earlier, it's a bit difficult to add advanced phrases that sound natural in a letter to a personal acquaintance or a family member. So I've used present perfect, I've been, it's been. I did manage to use a passive here. So I was asked to go. We don't know by whom, so that's nice to add in. And past perfect, I was able to add it in. So I was so busy, I had completely forgotten about your party, and it didn't occur to me to cancel. So I'm talking about something that happened in the past, And again, I've got your present perfect here. So just make sure that you're using a range in addition to the conditionals and the present tense as well. And then these things in red are just nice transitions. So to be completely honest is a nice thing to add in. It's quite advanced. If you were to just start with, I've been swamped with work lately, it isn't incorrect, but this, to be completely honest, just adds an extra touch. And this can really make the difference in your scoring. And though is a nice transition word and a connector for these two parts of the sentence. So in general, this is a Band 9 essay. It covers the three main points of the task that we saw here. It includes an apology, an explanation, and a description. And the points are provided in an informal tone. The coherence and cohesion part is great because it is clearly organized thanks to the outline. And again, we looked at the lexical resource. I just mentioned a couple that stuck out to me in blue and green. So this is what you should be striving to do. Make sure that your outline makes sense, that it's organized, and then just start writing. So I would encourage you to practice this even more. And after a bit, this will become quick and your 20 minutes will just fly by. Okay, so with that, we are finished with our essay. Let's go ahead and finish this lesson. All right, excellent job today. Let's wrap up. I'm going to show you some do's and don'ts. Let's first start with the do's. Obviously, you want to read and understand the question. So separate the question into those three main areas before you even write your outline. This will help you understand which type of letter you have to write, who you're writing it to, and what you should include in your outline and also in your letter. And like I said, do not skimp out on the outline. Take the time to plan it well. It only really takes a minute. With more practice, it'll really become second nature. And don't forget to do this. Do use informal language, obviously, for this type of letter. You want to adhere to the instructions and the tone. So feel free also to use phrasal verbs and colloquialisms, any slang. and make one single line for a mistake. You don't want to do anything like scribbling and making anything look unorganized. Now for your don'ts. Again, don't start writing immediately. Even if you see that people are writing immediately and you feel a little bit under pressure, stick with your strategy. Know that you've practiced and that you know what you're doing. But don't get carried away and don't get nervous by writing the wrong amount. You want to stay around 150. Obviously, that's your minimum, so don't go too far over, but also don't be afraid to write a little bit more. You don't want to use overly formal language here because that will just show your examiner that you do not have the ability to follow instructions or that you don't have the proper vocabulary when it comes to informal letters. Remember, you want to showcase that you can adhere to the instructions and you can adapt your language to various situations. So make sure you are sticking to informal language and don't use abbreviations. So you can use slang, you can use any contractions, but make sure you're spelling everything out and do not use abbreviations or don't use anything that you would type with. So for example, if you're going to write your, do not write you are. That is not the place for an exam. So just make sure you are adhering to everything, but still writing everything out. Like I said, excellent job today. I hope you will continue on with your IELTS preparation and strategy. You can go ahead and visit us at www.bestmytest.com/IELTS. Here you will find a lot of great tips, tricks, and a lot of practice when it comes to IELTS writing and even things for the other sections. So we'll be waiting for you over there. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you for the next lesson.